Rumors had been spreading for weeks in Fort Detrick about strange shipments and men arriving under cover of darkness. Chemists, psychiatrists, and shadowy officers who didn't answer questions. It was 1953, and the Cold War had sharpened into a new paranoia. If the Soviets or Chinese could erase a man's will, the United States could not be left defenseless. From that anxiety grew a program whose name would later become shorthand for government betrayal: MK-Ultra. This is a story of science turned secret, of young recruits in white labs, and of a fall from a New York hotel that shook a nation when the truth leaked decades later. The architect was a small, clandestine team inside the CIA, guided by Dr. Sidney Gottlieb and authorized by Alan Dulles. Their goal was simple and monstrous: develop techniques, drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, to control or extract information from a human mind. LSD, newly synthesized and terrifyingly potent, became their instrument. One of the program's tragic pivots was Frank Olson, a bacteriologist at Fort Detrick who worked on biological warfare research. Olson was a trusted scientist, a father, and, according to later revelations, an unwitting subject. In November 1953, at a CIA team retreat at Deep Creek Lake, Maryland, Olson was given a dose of LSD without his knowledge. Over the next days, his behavior changed. He grew anxious and disoriented. He flew to New York City to consult with colleagues, slipped into a paranoid crisis, and on November 28th, he plunged from a 13th floor window of the Hotel Statler. For years, the official record said suicide. The family was told little. But then the mid-1970s arrived. The Church Committee in the Senate and the Rockefeller Commission peeled back years of secrecy. They exposed MK-Ultra's span across North America. Projects funneled through universities, hospitals, prisons, and even private clinics. There were sub-projects in Montreal where psychiatrist Ewan Cameron carried out de-patterning with drugs and electroshock. There were midnight climax safe houses in San Francisco and New York, where prostitutes lured men who were secretly dosed and watched behind one-way mirrors. Documents, the ones that survived, described experiments on unwitting citizens, alcoholism studies, and the testing of chemicals whose effects were unknown and often devastating. The CIA tried to erase the trail. In 1973, then-Director Richard Helms ordered many MK-Ultra files destroyed. Still, enough survived to shock a public that had trusted its institutions. Congress held hearings. Lawsuits were filed. In 1975, the Olson family learned for the first time that Frank had been dosed with LSD. In 1994, the U.S. government settled with the family, offering compensation and an apology for the agency's role in his death. Yet, even after settlements and exhumations, debates persisted about whether Olson's fall was suicide, an accident during a manic episode provoked by LSD, or something darker. MK-Ultra's story is not a tidy conspiracy theory. It is a documented history of decisions made under fear, camouflaged by bureaucracy, and cemented by destruction of records. Its legacy lives on in judicial reforms, restrictions on human subject research, and the raw memory of what happens when secrecy trumps ethics. Veterans of the programs, victims of experiments in Canada and the United States, and families like the Olsons finally drew the curtain back. But not all the way. In the end, the conspiracy was less about a single, neat plot than a culture of covert experimentation born of Cold War anxieties. The greatest revelation was simple and terrible. Modern institutions, when convinced of an existential threat, can rationalize almost any method. The question that haunts both historians and citizens is this: How many more rooms full of files were erased in the name of security? And how many lives were measured and discarded in experiments the public never authorized? If you find this video interesting, kindly subscribe and share and drop your thought in the comments section. See you on our next video.